Most people come to New Orleans for the nightlife.
Hey, are you Melanie?
Yeah.
We came with a hidden camera to buy weight loss drugs.
It's gonna decrease your appetite. You're not gonna think about eating.
Okay.
A Scripps News investigation inside the shadow market for prescription diet drugs.
I mean, is that problematic to you?
That's actually terrifying.
Failed warnings.
These people have got no freaking idea.
Thousands of outdoor warning sirens are scattered across this country.
Did they have any warning that the tornado was coming?
No, sir.
We discover how these relics of the Cold War
This looks very old.
are now leaving communities vulnerable in monster storms.
The tornado has just gone all the way to the ground now.
Not one siren in this town worked.
Holy cow.
Hey, Congressman, can we talk to you?
And the story of a Tennessee congressman.
This doesn't have to be a story if you can just offer some evidence it went for a good cause.
What happened to thousands of dollars he raised for a children's burial ground?
Here in the cemetery, we checked from one corner to another.
We investigate after receiving tips from donors who want to know where their money went.
Congressman, are you not concerned about how this looks?
I'm Katie Beck in Washington. Welcome to this edition of Scripps News Investigates. We've all heard about the diet drug craze gripping this country. Wildly popular brands like Ozempic and Wegovy have quickly become household names, credited with helping patients achieve remarkable weight loss. But as demand for these drugs skyrockets, manufacturers have struggled to keep up. Now, an explosion of questionable markets are filling the void. And the FDA is warning consumers about the risks that may come with shopping for these alternate drugs online. We went to New Orleans to test for ourselves the shadow market for diet drugs.
Most people come to New Orleans for the music and the nightlife.
Hey, are you Melanie?
Yeah.
But we came here to explore a shadow market for diet drugs.
You can come up here.
Wearing a hidden camera, I stepped inside a van at a local city park. I had contacted this woman, Melanie Burris, through her website. She provides IV fluids for hangovers, but also advertises prescription drugs to lose weight that are FDA approved. Only the fine print below says they aren't. I filled out this brief online form, which included questions about any other medications I'm taking and my medical history. We spoke for about 10 minutes by phone and arranged to meet in person.
Have you done any injections before?
No.
Okay.
She lays out on her table 4 injectable shots, along with a promise they'll deliver quick weight loss results.
It's just gonna decrease your appetite. You're not gonna think about eating.
Okay. Okay.
The shots, she says, are pre-filled with the substance known as semaglutide. That's the active ingredient in FDA-approved brand names like Ozempic that slow digestion and suppress the appetite.
So you're gonna just, squeeze, alcohol swab, push it in and push the plunger.
Okay.
Very simple.
Before we arrived, we had searched Louisiana state records and found a Melanie Burris listed as a registered nurse. Registered nurses are not permitted to prescribe drugs in any state.
Mel, are you a doctor yourself, or are you?
I'm a nurse.
So, are you the kind that can write your own script? Can you write your own prescriptions, or how do you?
So it's me and a doctor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and so you guys run this together?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In less than 10 minutes, the transaction is done. I walk away with an envelope of syringes filled with what I'm told are prescription drugs. My name's not on it, and neither is the doctor's name who prescribed the drug to me, a doctor I've never spoken to and whose identity remains a mystery.
I just bought a weight loss drug, a prescribed weight loss drug, out of a van for $200.
Walking up to a van in New Orleans is not how things are supposed to happen, and the word ethics.
Derek Lowe has spent nearly 35 years working in drug discovery for pharmaceutical companies and has studied diet drugs.
You don't know under what conditions these needles were filled. You don't know what's really in them. It's probably semaglutide, but that's not a great basis on which to inject things into your body. And you certainly don't know if these syringes were sterile, how they've been stored, if they might be contaminated with something inadvertently. Who the hell knows?
Social media is flooded with transformational stories about extreme weight loss, and celebrities like Oprah have championed the benefits of this new class of drugs. But the ongoing shortage of the FDA-approved medicine, along with its high cost, has sent many searching for cheaper alternate versions online, which they hope will have the same effect. The FDA has warned patients to be careful about doing that, writing that some alternate versions of semaglutide may be counterfeit, which means they could contain the wrong ingredients, contain too little, too much, or no active ingredient at all, or contain other harmful ingredients. The National Association of Boards of Pharmacy this past December doubled down on that warning, saying that because Ozempic and Wegovy are commercially popular, illegal online sales of the products have increased dramatically, and that in one instance, insulin was found as opposed to semaglutide, causing hospitalization of patients experiencing seizures and dangerously low blood sugar. Derek Lowe argues that even if the substance is exactly what the online seller says it is, without a doctor's oversight, patients may not be aware of how the drug could interact with other medications they're already taking or impact preconditions they may have.
Every drug does have side effects, and every drug does have potential interactions with other things. So if a patient is displaying what we would call comorbidities, like very high blood pressure or kidney trouble or other conditions, you would want to know about that, and you would want to say, okay, this may not be right for you. Or,
Our Scripps News analysis found over 100 reports of adverse events reported to the FDA when people used alternate versions of semaglutide for weight loss in 2023. In 83% of those cases, patients had serious outcomes, such as hospitalization, disability, and even death. Not all sellers we found operate in the same way. When we attempted to purchase semaglutide from a company called Synergy Health, we had to speak directly to a doctor over the phone. She said based on my height and weight, I didn't qualify for semaglutide and wouldn't prescribe it to me. Before we aired this report, we wanted to meet Melanie Burris again to give her a chance to explain the business she's running out of her van.
I am a journalist, and I'm working on a story, and I'm exploring how people get weight loss drugs.
She answered my questions and said she's helped people lose incredible amounts of weight, improve their health, even without ever being seen by a doctor.
Could you see how there would be people who would think that's risky? Like in my case, like I came here, I wasn't seen by a doctor, I got the medication, I walked away. You know what I mean? Is there some inherent risk in that?
I guess,
Yeah.
She told us she gets her medicine from a reliable source, an FDA-registered pharmacy out of Texas, and she said she could prove it.
I have a prescription with your name on it, but I didn't bring it. But I can give that to you next time, like the actual prescription box with your name on it.
Okay.
Despite our repeated request, she never provided us with any paperwork that revealed the doctor's name who wrote my prescription or where my drugs came from. And after an extensive search, we could find no labs that would test the injections, in part because semaglutide is such a complex molecule and so new to the market. But Burris insisted her business is safe.
What happens once they send you the semaglutide? What happens? You draw the... And any worries about sterilization or contamination when you do that?
No, because it's not a sterile procedure. I'm not doing a procedure.
But you would defend what you do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just because of the results I see in people that are able to get off of all these other medications that they're on.
Yeah, I just remember her in that.
We took what we had found to State Representative Jason Hughes. He's a member of the Health and Welfare Committee in Louisiana's House of Representatives.
I walked away with it without ever seeing a doctor or having a prescription with my name on it. I mean, is that problematic to you?
That's actually terrifying. We could have a lot of residents attempting to solve one problem, a weight loss issue, but could really find themselves in the emergency room in ICU or unfortunately dead because we don't know what's in those vials.
We pointed Hughes to the FDA data we had uncovered about adverse events.
So when you think about the fact that the access is what the access is, and those outcomes are as serious as they are.
You should not be able to just walk up to a van to a corner grocery store and access these drugs. You should have to consult your primary care physician. You should have to get a prescription from your doctor.
Hughes says he plans to sound the alarm about the problem we've uncovered during the upcoming legislative session.
We have an obligation to crack down on this issue, to regulate this issue, because it would potentially save lives.
We weren't able to verify where Melanie Burris was getting what she said was an alternate form of semaglutide. But when there is a shortage of an FDA-approved drug, pharmacies are actually permitted to create their own copies, and doctors are allowed to prescribe them as long as they follow certain rules meant to keep everyone safe. When a killer tornado barreled toward Mississippi last year, it caught the small town of Rolling Fork by surprise. Its residents say they never heard the town's outdoor warning sirens go off. Even in this age of emergency alerts on our phones, sirens remain a crucial lifeline in thousands of communities across the U.S. But as national investigative correspondent Patrick Terpstra discovered, broken and out-of-date sirens are leading more and more to failed warnings.
You're looking at a monster tornado barreling toward the city of Rolling Fork, Mississippi 1 year ago. A storm chaser driving through town blares his horn. He's trying to alert locals who seem unaware of what's coming because the county's outdoor emergency sirens are not going off.
These people have got no freaking idea.
You could feel the house shaking, the noise, the splintering wood and trees falling and breaking glass. It was intense, let's just say that.
About 1 month after that harrowing night, we met Tommy Hengst at what's left of his house.
Pam and I were right here.
He showed us the utility room where he and his wife Pam raced for cover with just seconds to spare.
I don't recall hearing a tornado siren.
It's horrible, like.
Christopher Jennings was driving home when the tornado hit. Where we're standing, was this the front yard?
Yes, sir.
He lived in this mobile home park located within sight of one of Rolling Fork's 2 outdoor emergency sirens. 3 of his neighbors were among the 13 here who did not survive. Did they have any warning that the tornado was coming?
No, sir. No, sir. The warning across the street, they ain't never go off.
Sirens have been used since the 1970s in towns across America to warn about imminent danger from bad weather. They're designed to only warn people who are outside, but even with alerts on cell phones, TV, and radio these days, sirens are still considered critical, especially in low-income and rural areas where good cell signals and phones may be in short supply. But a lot of sirens are actually repurposed from the Cold War.
You might be out playing at home when the warning comes.
Originally designed to warn of an enemy attack. In Rolling Fork, the setup was so old, it required dispatchers to activate the system manually. The dispatcher on duty that night wasn't sure she knew how to do that, so she called her boss, Angela Jenkins, the county's head emergency dispatcher. She believes at least one siren eventually sounded.
Is it possible that by the time the siren sounded, it was too late for a lot of people to take cover?
Yeah, it's possible.
There are tens of thousands of outdoor warning sirens across the U.S., but our Scripps News investigation found there are no national standards that dictate how they should be used, maintained, and tested. Since 2019, we found 24 incidents when sirens failed during testing, or worse, when severe weather hit. 5 of those malfunctions happened just this past year.
The tornado has just gone all the way to the ground now.
One of those failures occurred here in Hennessy, Oklahoma.
How real is the threat of tornadoes in Hennessy?
I think it's about as real as it gets.
Bert Greitz has been part of the leadership of this community for decades. Listen to the reaction he gets at a town hall when he shares the status of their sirens.
We tested the storm siren system Not one siren in this town worked.
Holy cow.
All of them were down.
This looks very old.
Time had caught up with Hennessy's outdoor alarms. This one still marked with a civil defense decal. The original copper wiring was no longer compatible with the modern phone lines necessary to activate the sirens.
How old is the siren that we're looking at?
That was put in about 1973.
Greitz took us to see how they've managed to attach a switch to the guts of this half-century-old siren, bypassing those copper wires.
This is your temporary fix.
This is our temporary fix.
An app now triggers the alarm. The sirens blare at about 130 decibels. That's roughly equivalent to a jet engine at takeoff.
How did that sound to you today?
Sounds good. Working perfectly.
This was our living room. We spent the night right here.
Back in Rolling Fork, we were with Tommy Hanks as he prepared to tear down what was left of his home of 29 years. He told us he knows sirens save lives, but he doesn't spend too much time looking backward.
Sirens are a good thing. A very, very wise man once told me, the most useless real estate in the world is the runway behind you. You got to step into the future.
Head dispatcher Angela Jenkins, who also lost her home that night, told us that future for Rolling Fork now includes a plan for more sirens and new technology that will automatically activate them as soon as the National Weather Service issues a tornado warning.
Can I ask you a hard question? Do you feel like some of the deaths here could have been prevented if the siren had gone off earlier?
I don't know, but I can say this. The weight of the world was on my shoulder. So I can guarantee you we're taking all in the extra measures to make sure that we learn from this experience. If we could have done anything to save everybody, I promise you, we would have saved everybody.
What did Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles do with thousands of dollars he raised a decade ago for a children's burial garden? That's the question reporter Phil Williams with Scripps News Nashville started asking after receiving tips from donors who wanted to know where their money had gone.
Congressman, this doesn't have to be a story if you can just offer some evidence it went for a good cause. This is a story about Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles that stems from a personal tragedy, the stillborn death of a child whose photo Ogles sometimes posts on his political social media. Another donor who called me said he almost felt guilty about calling. You feel the same way? It just feels like a topic you can't touch. It's taboo. But the story we heard repeatedly was how 2 days after the loss of the child in 2014, Ogles himself used a photo of his stillborn baby for a GoFundMe for something he called Lincoln's Place. It implored, help us help other families. No family should have to bury their child. No child should be alone. It promised a burial garden that would create a place for Lincoln's new play friends, a life-size statue of Jesus watching over the children, along with benches for families to sit while surrounded by flowers. And people responded to Ogles' emotional plea, donating almost $25,000. GoFundMe confirms Ogles got the money. You want to believe that that money went to something good. Yet the donors we spoke with described what they called gnawing questions about what happened to those funds. Of course, this would not be a story if the future congressman had taken the money and used it as promised, or at least for a good cause. But here in the cemetery where Lincoln is buried, we checked from one corner to another. And just like the tipsters had feared, there is no children's burial garden, no benches for families to sit, no life-size statue of Jesus. In fact, a Tennessean newspaper story a year after the GoFundMe diplomatically raised the question of what happened with the money, quoting Ogles as blaming government bureaucracy. He claimed, what we found over the past year as we have been going through this process is that burials are heavily regulated. He insisted none of the money had been spent. A local funeral director was also quoted saying she still planned to meet with the family to help organize a unified effort to aid parents dealing with the financial and emotional trauma of bearing children. 8 years later, that funeral director now says, quote, back at that time, we could have helped them do something, but they never came back to us. And the manager at the cemetery where Lincoln is buried says he met with Ogles a couple of times, but then he never came back. Neither knows what happened to the nearly $25,000 that people contributed.
Honestly, in this case, I hope he's able to provide me with documentation that the money went for a good cause.
So we asked the congressman's office, but we never got an answer from them.
Hey, Congressman, can we talk to you?
Nor from Ogles himself.
What did you do with the money that people donated for Lincoln's place?
Congressman, this doesn't have to be a story if you can just offer some evidence it went for a good cause.
What would be your message to Andy Ogles?
This donor's message, tell us what you did. Tell us where the money went. It was a message.
Was the money used the way you said it was? Congressman, are you not concerned about how this looks?
Apparently lost on the congressman.
After Phil's report first aired, Congressman Ogles claimed he used the money to help other families who've lost children with burial costs. But when asked by our Nashville investigative team to provide specific details or proof, he declined. I'm Katie Beck. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week for another edition of Scripps News Investigates.